The second episode was very epic, and although at first it may have seemed like it was going to be rather monotonous, what you saw in the end struck me to the core. The new episode was so ambiguous that I only recently realized who the main character of episode 2 is, and that is Jax. In my previous videos, I assumed that he would be the main character, and while many people might think that Pomni is the main character, you would be partially right, but not completely. We found out what Pomni is really like, but at the same time, we were shown all the nastiness of Jax's character. But let's go through it all in order. First of all, remember how much Jax was happy with the beginning of their adventure and the appearance of the truck, and at the moment of the chase, his joy was unbounded, but as soon as they failed, his face became very displeased, and obviously not because of the fact that now they are on the verge of death, but because of the fact that their adventure is over. However, as soon as they met Fudge Monster and he said that he ate the people of Candy Kingdom for fun and didn't think it was murder, Jax was very pleased, and that was the first signal that something was wrong with Jax. As soon as everything was calm again, Jax became very sad again, and this mood remained until Fudge Monster broke into Candy City, and we can see that his smile is about to tear his mouth off, and I'm sure that Jax's joy is not because something terrible happened, but because he did it, and now he can sleep well because the day was a success. Now let's talk about all of Jax's crimes, and the first one was with Pomni when he just threw her off a truck and almost killed Pomni. And Pomni herself had a rude word for the digital circus bully at the time. And when he realized it wasn't working, the blackmail started. And apparently Jax knows something about Gangle that no one should know about, especially Ragatha. And in this case, the object of the blackmail was some kind of figurine. Maybe it was a gift from Ragatha, but that's not important right now. And that's the problem, because Jax realizes that Gangle is morally weak and easy to manipulate, and thus she can be the puppet that will do whatever her so-called boss says. Now let's go back to April 24, where one of the users asked what the worst thing Jax did, and the answer was so true that we actually saw with our own eyes the worst thing Jax did. He literally destroyed an entire kingdom before our eyes when he left the gate open, and thus giving access to the city to Fudge, who is the #1 threat to all residents. And you can argue with me and say that all of them are NPCs and are not living characters, but only a toy that Kane invented for the entertainment of Steel characters. But still, if you remember the same Pomni who, during the conversation with Gummigoo, was able to bring him to emotions. And as a result, we learned that, in fact, even NPCs can realize themselves and feel everything as much as living characters. And if Gummigoo was able to do that, then the rest of us are just as capable of feeling as living beings. And if you look at it that way, it's doubly creepy what Jax did. On the other hand, it was part of a deal in which Fudge Monster and Jax agreed to exchange the exit from the Abyss for entry into the Candy Kingdom. And here you might think that this means that Jax is an honorable character who will fulfill his terms anyway, but however, we all understand that this was done not out of any good motives of honor, but only to create chaos after himself and suffering of all the inhabitants of Candy Kingdom. And I really hope that as soon as the last character stepped through the portal into the digital circus, the location of the kingdom just disappeared as if it never existed. After all, that would be much better than being trapped by the Fudge Monster anyway. But whether this is actually the case, we don't know and can only guess. Jax doesn't know what happened in the kingdom, and I don't think it bothers him too much, because up to this point it was obvious that Jax was not happy with the result of their adventure because he was not satisfied with the violence, and he only became satisfied after he had caused a nightmare in the kingdom. And already here, we can realize that Jax is a real sadist who has no positive feelings neither for NPCs nor for living characters who are his friends. And if we compare him with the others, for example, Ragatha had unpleasant feelings when she heard that Fudge ate mannequins for fun. And the protagonist of the digital circus Pomni even managed to find a common language and love Gummigoo, who is also not a real character but an ordinary game character. She tries to support him somehow and do everything possible to make the alligator forget about the fact that he is an NPC and was able to quietly continue to live his new life, which he promised Pomni. They've even become friends, and for a human, such feelings are absolutely normal, but not for Jax, who, as we found out, is not interested in people or game characters, each of them for his own amusement, and doesn't care what it can lead to. And the harsher the outcome, the more fun for the rabbit. And from the looks of it, we can say that Jax is slowly starting to emerge as a new antagonist. So I strongly suggest you to take a closer look at him and watch Jax personally over the next few episodes. And although this episode was the lead, and then he will be given a little less time, his real story is just beginning. However, as we can recall, in one of the scenes, Jax has a note of regret and uncertainty. And this is where it gets really confusing and we can't say for sure who Jax is, because on the one hand, he is a complete idiot who does everything just to please him, and on the other hand, something human is also present in him. But much more important than that is the setting in which Jax shows us these emotions, namely Kaufmo's funeral. Absolutely every character said something and somehow said goodbye to that clown, and even Zubul, who positions herself so strict and aloof, also took part. But we didn't see Jax on any of the scenes, but I'll tell you about it later. For now, let's remember the final scene of the pilot episode where Pomni was on the verge of madness, while now she feels warm at heart and her frightening smile has changed to a joyful one. And it was then that Pomni had some peace of mind and accepted the fact that she was in a digital circus, but most importantly, that she was not alone. And we see how she feels supported by the other characters, because even though the circumstances are terrible, they are all still human and try to support each other. This is clearly shown in this scene where Pomni is on the verge of madness, but is saved by Ragatha, Kinger, Gangle, and Zubul. But neither at the funeral nor at Pomni's vision do we see Jax, who seems to be drifting further and further away from his friends, and everyone mentally feels it. And as we can see, nobody even wants to bring him back somehow and talk to him to keep him, and even if he doesn't want to say a farewell speech just to be present at this sad event to get closer to him. And after all this, I can safely say that Jax is a unique personality among the other characters, because in the pilot episode, we could not imagine that Jax will be anywhere apart from the other characters. And even if you remember the fragment where he ran away from Kaufmo, he did not hide in a room and sat alone, but came to Gangle and Kinger. And many people liked him for his boldness, rudeness, willfulness, and sarcastic humor, and I also liked it, but already in the second episode, he revealed to us a completely different side, and we have already discussed it. We already clearly understand that Pomni will be the character that binds everyone around him, and thus creating a positive environment in the digital circus. And I'm sure that Jax, with his animal gut, will not be happy about this turn of events and will try to destroy everything good that can appear in the circus. Maybe he'll even use Gangle to do it. And with each day of more and more detachment from the others, he will inevitably await the fate of Kaufmo, and we will see the process of his abstraction. But before that, he will definitely do a lot of nasty things that can make one of the characters turn into an abstracted monster much sooner than he does. And you can write your opinion about this character in the comments. Bye-bye, everybody!